Alright, folks, how's it going? This is gonna be just a short commentary over my new Ocarina of Time 3D Any Percent New Game Plus speedrun in 23 minutes and 31 seconds. The reason this is a thing right now is because there were some recent developments that suddenly made Ocarina of Time 3D a lot easier, at least with regards to one of the tricks that we previously had to do if we wanted to skip getting explosives in the Any Percent New Game Plus route. And also coincidentally made Ocarina of Time 3D Any Percent New Game Plus one of the easiest 3D Zelda speedruns now. So an Any Percent New Game Plus speedrun, New Game Plus is not like a native function of Ocarina of Time 3D, like this isn't Master Quest or anything, this is Vanilla Quest. But the New Game Plus feature refers to a glitch that we can do where we can start our file with any item we want on the B button, provided that it's possible to get it on the B button at all on some other file. Essentially, the way that works is if you do a glitch like Bottle Adventure on a file and you get some other B button item, or some other item on your B button, and you perform an event such as climbing on Epona or going fishing, which temporarily changes your B button, if you quit the game then, and then start a new file, or create a new file, then that new file will have the B button that was on your previous file, or will have the B button item that was on your previous file. So within this run, the B button item of choice that we have is Furore's Wind, which is very useful in this game because Furore's Wind can be used to wrong warp, and the end of this run is just simply a wrong warp to the credits. And one of the other nice things about having Furore's Wind on the B button is that we can use it anywhere. Like, there's no restrictions on where or when we can't use it or anything like the regular Furore's Wind item, which is very nice. So, yeah. The gist of this speedrun is that we're essentially going to be getting magic as soon as we can, because we can't use Furore's Wind until we have magic, so we have to go do that first. As far as like text and language goes in this game, language doesn't particularly matter, since most of the text in this game can be done instantly. It's not supposed to be done instantly, but there's this really weird technique in this game called quick text, where if you manage to press the B button on a very specific frame of a text box, like initializing itself, then the text box text will just all get fully displayed right away. Even if the text box is not supposed to be displayed fully right away. So that actually does save quite a bit of time over the course of any run of this category. In the intro cutscene alone, it can save up to like 6 or 7 seconds if you get all of it. So as we start here, this is one of the only categories that doesn't immediately backflip off of Link's house. Instead, we side hop over here so that we can get the blue rupee that's on top of the bridges over here. Basically, for our escape, we're going to be buying some Deku nuts for 15 rupees and using those Deku nuts to escape. We can't get the sword because if we get the sword and equip it, then we overwrite our B button, which has Furore's Wind, so that's not particularly useful. But thankfully, this game also has sticks, which we can use if we need to do like any what would have been normal sword movements. So now that we have our Deku nuts, we're going to go over to the crawl space that normally leads to the Kokiri sword chest. And from the crawl space, we're going to be doing a technique called walking while talking. So I'm going to equip the Deku nuts, and then I'm going to crawl back out of the crawl space, roll over to the sign, talk to it, and then throw a Deku nut. And this will give me control of Link, despite the fact that the game sort of thinks I'm still reading the sign, so it keeps the camera over here. And this will allow me to escape because since now the camera is not, or the camera is stuck over here with the sign, the actor that normally guards us from leaving Kokiri Forest is not loaded. So we can just simply walk right out of the forest without much issue. Of course, since the camera's on the sign the whole time, we can't actually see where Link is, but thankfully the mini-map will still update us to where Link's position is. Which is nice. We can sort of just guide ourselves while looking at the mini-map to escape the forest. So thankfully that's not as difficult as it might have been if we didn't have that dynamic mini-map display. And of course now we get the Ocarina. We do escape this way because we need the Ocarina. We could escape with a Navi dive through the Lost Woods, which is something that a bunch of other categories do in a few places. But we need the Ocarina to play Zelda's Lullaby, so that we can, get magic, and also later on open up the door to Darunia's room, because that's something important that we need to do for the new stuff that was found. Anyway, now we're in Hyrule Field, and we're going to be doing some very exciting backwalking here. And of course we're going to be talking to the owl. So while this is happening, I guess we can sort of go over what was previously done in this category versus now. So most of this category is still the same, but there's one key difference, which is that one trick that we had to do previously, called the Tektite Hover, we would do this Tektite Hover in Death Mountain Trail so that we could get up to the magic loading zone where we could get magic from the Great Fairy. Normally, to get up to the magic, you need to have explosives of some kind to blow up some rocks, and to blow up the entrance to the fairy fountain, but of course we don't get explosives in this run. So previously we had to get the infinite sword glitch with a Deku stick, and then hover off of some Tektites to get up to the area past where we would have needed explosives, which wasn't exactly the easiest thing to do. It was pretty difficult to be consistent at, especially since the ISG that we needed to get with the stick needed to be frame perfect within a jump slash. So most runs would just usually end to not getting the correct ISG with the Deku stick. But yeah, so thankfully that trick has been cut out. It's been replaced by something that is significantly easier to do, which I believe we agreed to call it Occam's statue, as sort of a reference to Occam's razor, because it's not entirely obvious that this is something we could do, obviously, but once we get to it, I'll explain what it is, because it is very simple and easy to do, just that the explanation for it is kind of complicated. Anyway, now that we're in Hyrule Castle area, I actually want to get caught right here to reload the area, because you need to reload the area at least once for Malin to appear so we can get the weird egg. Now you're probably wondering, well, why didn't you just go, out of the area and then come back in? And the reason for that is because if I go to the market town, the Castle Town Market, the time of day actually won't advance, and I need the time of day to advance as fast as possible so that the weird egg actually hatches. So by going over and getting caught by the guard to reload the area, I'm constantly, or the in-game time is still moving at a rate so that when I get over to Talon, who's sleeping near the sewers, then the egg will hatch just in time for me to show it to him. Otherwise, I would have had to wait a little bit once I got there. So it's all just time of day stuff. Navi also really wants to talk to me right now. We actually do talk to Navi later in the run, but that's because we need to get rid of her so we can actually go into the first-person view. So now we do the typical crate pulling. And then we can push it once in this direction to put it right up against Talon. And then I hang off the ledge and then climb back up so that after I'm finished showing Talon the Cucco, we can just grab onto the ledge and fall down instead of having to jump off the box. Saves just a little bit of time. And then, of course, you only need one box to actually jump over to the sewers here. The positioning for this, thankfully, isn't too hard. You just don't want to roll as you walk over, and you'll pop up onto the sewer so that you can crawl in. And now, of course, we have the guards. Basically, the guards can catch you and then throw you out of the courtyard if they see you. But if you side hop frame perfectly, meaning that you're only on the ground for a single frame at a time, then the guards actually can't catch you. Although that's not typically something that we go for, unless we're in serious YOLO mood, I guess. So right here, I'm just waiting for this guard to avert his gaze the other direction so I can actually go through. That guard was actually kind of slow. And then here, I can just side hop past the guard on the right without him noticing me. And thankfully, once we get to this area, the guards can't actually catch us. So yeah, It's not the best guards, but it's good enough for the attempts that I'm doing. I didn't particularly want, like, you know, a near perfect run for this category because I don't care that much about this category, but I thought that at least I wanted a run that was somewhat respectable. And of course here we can see that we're getting or as much quick text as we can, which greatly speeds up the cutscene, even though the text is already increased in speed from the original title. Of course, sometimes quick text doesn't matter, right? Like, in this cutscene with the Triforce, the cutscene is still going to fully play out regardless of, like, any quick text that we get, so... This is, like, the one break we get during the run, even though it's... Obviously, breaks probably aren't needed since it's only, like, a sub-25-minute run. It's kind of interesting, though, thinking that, like, more than half of the run is just spent, trying to get Zelda's letter. Or specifically, I should say Zelda's lullaby. And then after that, everything just kind of falls into place somewhat nicely. So the technique that will be demonstrated later that allows for getting magic without using the Tektite Hover is something that can be applied to pretty much every category. Of course, not like glitchless and whatnot, but like any percent, MST, all dungeons, 100%. This trick can apply to all those categories. And it's a fairly easy trick to pull off. It's, at least when I did it with a sword, it's something that you can get pretty much every time. In any percent New Game Plus, we have to do it with a stick, which is actually, like, a lot more precise than we would have thought, but thankfully it still works. Alright, so now we have Zelda's letter, which means we can finally get the lullaby that we want. Despite all the stuff we can do in this game, we still have never been able to skip lullaby cutscene in any fast fashion. Of course, we could, like, do a bunch of dumb things to, like, get explosives before this, but obviously that wouldn't be any faster than just watching the cutscene right here. We learned the song. Hooray. So it took me about, like, I want to say maybe 6 hours of attempts to get this run. So it wasn't something that I put, like, a terrible amount of time into. A lot of the runs that I had typically would just reset to, like, accidentally getting caught by guards or something. Because the guards are really, like, the only RNG in the run that can, like, change between attempts. I did have some runs that had, like, guards that were, like, 7 seconds faster than the ones I got in this one, but again, not too worried about that. If someone wants to grind this category and get real serious about it, you could probably beat this run. Alright, so now we need to make our way over to Kakariko, because Kakariko is the link between Hyrule Field and Death Mountain Trail. And we're gonna do some rolls up the stairs here, because the backwalk angle was somewhat unoptimal there, so I wanted to adjust slightly so I could roll straight to the loading zone instead of at an angle. And here, I can turn the camera with the gyro capability to make it easier to see when I need to side hop onto the stairs. It's actually one of the, in my opinion, the best features, or one of the best features of the 3DS version is the ability to use the gyro to aim things. Of course, this gyro doesn't really come into play in this category because we don't get any item that we would need to aim with, but it's nice when using the camera in that situation. And then, of course, this cutscene is very fast because of quick text, so we can make our way over to Death Mountain Trail. Alright, so for going up Death Mountain Trail, we're actually going to do a technique called a fess, which is a forward extended super slide. So by holding the control stick in a somewhat precise position, and getting damaged by that Tektite, I can begin doing this weird forward shuffling animation that has a slightly faster speed than backwalking, and has the ability to turn while I'm doing it. And then I also shift the position so I can start turning the other way as I'm fessing up here. Yeah, so that saves like, I think like 12 seconds or so over doing like regular backwalking, so it's a nice time save. Alright, now we're in Goron City. So normally when you come to Goron City, at this point, you'd want to open up the path to the Lost Woods and then go get Saria's Song. Come back for Darunia so that you can, get him to give you the Goron bracelet and all that jazz. But that's not what we're going to do. Instead, we'll be doing some weird manipulation of objects due to how rooms are loaded between Darunia's room and the rest of Goron City. So, like, this movement that I'm doing right here, going in and out of triggers, is all intentional. It's not, like, to waste time or anything. And then I'm going to get 2 sticks in these pots right here. I'm going to take this pot over to where the first stick drop happens so I don't have to throw it. And so, behind Darunia, there is a statue that, when you pull it out of the way, it leads to Death Mountain Crater. So right here, what we're actually going to do is we're going to set ourselves up into a very precise position. And then I'm going to slash my stick at this precise position, and this will actually unload the collision for the statue, so we can just walk right through it into Death Mountain Crater. So that is called Occam's statue. Again, it's significantly harder with the stick. It's, like, really easy with the sword. Like, you'll get it first try with the sword. And then now, since we're in Death Mountain Crater, we can simply go up to Death Mountain Trail. Backtrack up, I guess. This is also why I didn't take more damage earlier, even in situations where it might have been slightly faster, because I needed to have enough time to make it over here, out to the loading zone. Especially since if I die, I will actually lose Ferori's Wind being on my B button, which is obviously not a good thing. Alright, so we still don't have explosives to actually get to the magic loading zone, but what we do have is this really nice seam on the side of the mountain right here. So I backflipped up the seam so I could get out of bounds. And then from here, because the magic loading zone extends so far backwards, I can actually backwalk out of bounds, eventually fall when the collision stops, and then jump slash back in to just barely hit the tip of the magic loading zone right there. So, yeah, that's how we get magic without explosives. And I actually kind of made a mistake during that. I ended up backwalking off of the edge of the collision, which you're not supposed to do, because then it makes it significantly harder to actually get into the loading zone properly. But thankfully, it didn't end up mattering. I was able to jump slash in time. So now we can see Miss Great Fairy, who gives us the ability to use magic. So while we're getting magic here, the way the rest of this run is going to work is we're pretty much going to set Ferori's Wind in Goron City after coming in from Death Mountain Trail. And then with that Ferori's Wind point, we're going to exploit the blue warp at the end of the Deku tree to have the game instead take us to the credit sequence, instead of, like, to the cutscene that happens after the Deku tree. There's multiple points in the game where you can set Ferori's Wind for this to work, but obviously Goron City is the closest place that we can get to. And we need to go through Goron City again anyway, if we want to get to the Lost Woods to go back to Kokiri Forest. Because we can't save warp either, because save warping will also get rid of the item that we have on our B button if it's not a sword. So Ferori's Wind goes bye-bye if we do a save warp. So we're going to come back into this entrance, and we're going to... Well, first what we have to do, actually, is we have to open up the path to the Lost Woods. So we have to go back down to Darunia's room. So opening up the door here doesn't actually waste any time, just to... Even if it initially skips the Tektite Hover. So now we can get our Flaming Stick. The reason we got 2 sticks is because when we eventually go to beat Goma, we're going to be doing what's known as the broken Deku Stick glitch, so that we can have, or we can use a single Deku Stick on Goma without having to, like, use multiple ones. And for that glitch to work successfully, we need at least 2 Deku Sticks. So now we set Furore's Wind here. We set it while the bomb was ticking down so that we didn't waste any time while we were setting it. And then we can just get lost in the Lost Woods to go back to Kokiri Forest. You might have also realized that I got some rupees before entering the castle town. And that's because we still need to buy the shield over here. And not jump up onto the top of the shop like that. Because even though we don't need the shield for anything else, we still need the shield to get past the Deku scrubs that are at the bottom of the Deku tree basement right before the loading zone to Goma. So thankfully, it doesn't take too long to get the shield. It's like barely out of the way at all. And getting the red rupees in Hyrule Field doesn't waste any time because, again, we needed to wait for the day-night cycle to pass. I tried to do a jump slash into this trigger right here because then you get sent slightly farther forward in the cutscene, but I ended up just rolling, so it was like, alright, whatever. Also, the person who found the Goron City statue unload, we call Occam's statue, was a glitch hunter by the name of Blinny, so that's why the file name is Thanks Blinny, because he made this game a lot easier than what it normally would have been with the stupid Tektite Hover that no one wanted to do. Alright, so now we're in the Deku tree. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go start climbing up. I pull out a Deku stick to skip a Navi text trigger that is in front of these vines. Our goal right now in this room is to just break the web that's in the bottom of the room. And I have to be careful going over here because obviously I don't want the wall sculptulas to hit me down. Thankfully, the one on the right here was nice and decided not to face me. This Sculptula we can just use a Deku Net on so we can actually jump down without having to beat it. And then right here, I wanted to climb back up and do a trick known as a Mega Side Hop to do the B1 skip, but unfortunately, I ended up bonking against the web as it went down, so I didn't get back up there. But thankfully, we can just jump back up here to skip the basement level. And then I can push this block over here and jump and pull out my Deku stick at a specific time to light it on fire without having to push the block like all the way down or anything. So we can burn the web and get down here. Now it's just time for the scrubs. "23 is number 1. Alright, so now we're going to go fight Goma. Goma is like a 5-second boss fight, basically. So again, the reason we need 2 sticks is for the broken Deku stick glitch. So as the fight begins, I'm going to be throwing a Deku Nut down to stun Goma, and then I'll be jump slashing very close to her, which is going to break my Deku stick, but because of the broken Deku stick glitch, because of how Goma's collision works, Link is going to keep a broken Deku stick that he can use to attack. So now we just attack with the broken Deku stick, each hit doing 2 health damage to Goma, and Goma's total health is 10, so 5 hits and then she's done. And the reason we still need 1 stick is because if we had 0 sticks left, then we wouldn't be able to slash this broken Deku stick that we have. And then from here, I can just use Furore's Wind while I'm going into the blue warp, and because I return Furore's Wind at a specific point in this animation, the game's going to attempt to apply a cutscene offset to the point in Goron City where I had Furore's Wind set. And it just so happens that adding that cutscene offset will start the credits right here in this sequence. Because part of the credits do take place in Goron City. So yeah, that's how we do Ocarina of Time 3D any percent New Game Plus in 23 minutes and 31 seconds. I do hope to eventually come back to other categories of this game. Not necessarily any percent, because unfortunately any percent still has one other stupid trick that no one really wants to do. But other categories like, all dungeons, MST, and maybe 100% will definitely benefit from the new Occam statue. So, yeah. I don't know when I'll get around to that, though, because Skyward Sword is going to be at AGDQ 2020. So I'll probably, do more Ocarina of Time 3D stuff in, January, maybe, after AGDQ. I don't know. But in any case, thank you guys for watching, and have a nice day. Please enjoy the credits, and if you have any questions, I will hopefully do my best to answer them if you leave them in the comments. But yeah, I think that's it, so thank you for watching, and goodbye.